and welcome to African News on VOP TV. I am Fina Okechukwu. Partial results from South Africa's National Assembly election shows that the African National Congress ANC is leading, though with only 34% of the votes counted as of Thursday evening. The election marks the first time the ANC faces a significant challenge to its long-standing dominance since the country's first democratic election in 1994. Nomvula Mokoyane, the party's first Deputy Secretary General, expressed confidence in surpassing predictions of a low vote share, stating everybody was looking at the ANC with 36% to 40%, and we are required certain that we will surpass that. Meanwhile, the Democratic Alliance leads in the Western Cape, and the newly founded MK party, supported by former President Jacob Zuma, is ahead in KwaZulu-Natal. Additionally, the political wild card in South African election has been the Mkhonto Wesiweze MK party, led by former President Jacob Zuma. There is no doubt Jacob Zuma is prepared to flex his muscle as the kingmaker in his home province of KwaZulu-Natal, where the MK party has wrested a huge chunk of votes from the ANC. MK party formed just a few months ago. Results so far shows that for the national election has taken the largest share of the vote in the province, which is 44%, to that of ANC, which is 19%. However, local issues could have been a big factor in that shift, with some community members saying that they were turning their back on the ANC party because it had failed to fix acute water shortages. Part of the province, such as Terrance Park, which is a mere 20 minutes drive from the main city of Durban, have not had tap water for 10 months. Residents rely on water tankers that sometimes don't deliver water on time. People in KwaZulu-Natal hope that whosoever wins the election will fix the problem for good. Still talking elections, the European Union delegations in South Sudan has refuted allegation by President Salva Kiir that it is working to delay the upcoming elections. Lothar Jackie, deputy head of the EU delegation, stated on May 30th that the EU fully supports the creation of an environment conducive to elections, including the establishment of a constitution and transitional justice mechanisms. President Kiir had accused Western powers of attempting to delay the elections, though he did not specify how. He reaffirms his commitment to holding the elections in December as planned, warning that any postponement could lead to violence. Despite these assurances, South Sudan faces significant challenges, including the lack of a permanent constitution, a unified police force, and sufficient electoral preparations, as noted by Charles Tai Gitai of the International Commission overseeing the 2015 peace agreement. The country is also grappling with an economic crisis exacerbated by the conflict in neighboring Sudan, resulting in unpaid civil servants and reduced oil exports. Senegal's newly elected President Bassirou Diomaye Faye met with Mali's leader Colonel Assimi Goïta in Bamako on Thursday. The discussions focused on cooperation between the two countries and Mali's status within the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Earlier this year, Colonel Goïta announced Mali's withdrawal from ECOWAS following a coup. President Faye acknowledged the Mali's firm stance, but expressed optimism about finding a path to strengthen regional integration. He emphasized the importance of continued dialogue with all parties involved. Faye's visit to Mali marks the beginning of a regional tour that includes Burkina Faso, another Sahelian country dealing with terrorist threat and governed by a military junta. Faye's campaign promises included reintegrating Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger into the ECOWAS bloc. You're watching African News on VOP TV. More stories after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to African News on VOP TV. The United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, said that it is deeply concerned about the outbreak of violence in Malakal, Upper Nile State, which led to the death of several people yesterday, May 30th. In a statement from newsmen on Thursday, the UN mission, UNMISS, said that tension also remained high in the UN protection of civilian site adjacent to the mission's base in the state. Nicholas Haysom, the special representative of the UN Secretary General and the head of the UN peacekeeping mission, said that such violence causes lasting harm to communities and also prevents UNMISS from continuing their vital protection and peace-building work. However, the UNMISS urged state and the local authorities as well as government security forces to maintain stability and order in the area, including around the UN protection of civilian site and Malakal town. It called on feuding parties to show restraint and use dialogue to resolve outstanding issues peacefully, adding that the mission will continue to work with the state government, the community leaders, and security actors to ensure calm prevails. Still talking crisis. The Rwandan-backed M23 rebel is 5 kilometers, about 3 miles from the center of Kayaboyanga, as civilians were seen fleeing the area on Thursday. Kayaboyanga, strategic town in eastern part of the DRC, which is on the road to Goma, is in the process of emptying itself as the Rwandan M23 rebel approached the town. Recall that the March 23 movement resumed its armed campaign at the end of 2021, seizing swathes of territory in the North Kivu province. The Congolese army has tried to push back against the rebels group, which has almost entirely encircled Goma, the capital of the North Kivu province, where hundreds of thousands of displaced people have sought shelter. A local official who spoke on condition of anonymity said that as the March 23 movement rebels were now closing in on the town of Kayaboyanga, people have started fleeing to the north. Goma lies on the way to the key cities of Butembo and Beni and is home to about 60,000 people, apart from tens of thousands of displaced people who are sheltering there. Similarly, fighting was also reported Thursday in the Masisi area around Sake, which is only about 20 kilometers west of Goma. The FARDC, or Congolese Armed Forces, backed by armed militia known as the Wazalendo or Patriots in Swahili, launched an offensive about a week ago in North Kivu, Rushuru, and Masisi territory in a bid to recapture areas occupied by the M23 rebels. Away from the crisis in Congo, the U.S. military has been conducting a massive exercise in Africa aimed at countering terrorism and the growing influence of Russia and China on the continent. However, despite the U.S. 20-plus years of counterterrorism effort in Africa, terrorist groups have continued to rise, and U.S.-trained African officers have attempted at least 9 coups, 8 of which were successful. The U.S. interest in Africa is now new, but recently it has been more focused on military aid and training rather than economic investment. Over the last 2 decades, the U.S. military footprint on the continent has grown significantly, with devastating consequences that are little understood or acknowledged. AFRICOM, or U.S. Africa Command, is the umbrella that the U.S. military command, which is responsible for the entirety of Africa, except for Egypt, established in 2007. AFRICOM has built an archipelago of military bases across the northern tier of Africa, stretching from the east to west, and conducts military operations across the continent, including training missions, commando raids, drone strikes, and more. AFRICOM has a presence in about 15 countries across Africa, with the largest U.S. presence in Djibouti, where the U.S. has its only acknowledged military base, the Camp Lemonia. The U.S. also has a series of outposts in Somalia and a robust presence in Niger, West Africa, with several military bases and a CIA outpost. Vice President Kamala Harris' recent visit to Africa positions the U.S. as a reliable and trustworthy security and economic partner, but the U.S. military-focused approach has raised concern about its effectiveness in addressing the complex security challenges facing the continent. President Hakainde Hichilema presided over the Zambia Air Force ZAF number 46 and number 47 commissioning and wings parade, marking the largest cadet pass-out since independence. A total of 417 new officers from all 10 provinces were commissioned, reflecting the government's commitment to inclusivity. During the ceremony, President Hichilema praised the cadets for their perseverance through the rigorous training and emphasized the importance of peace and stability for national development. He highlighted the Air Force's role in maintaining security and urged the new officers to embody discipline, promote harmony, and uphold the principles of one Zambia, one nation, one people. As Commander-in-Chief, he also announced a directive to enhance the armed and security forces, their curriculum to include national unity and equality. Kenyan President William Ruto has defended the cost of his recent trip to the United States of America, revealing that friends covered the $73,000 expense of the private plane he used to travel. During his visit to the U.S., Kenya secured investment deals worth billions of dollars, a significant boost to the country's economy. Additionally, the U.S. designated Kenya as a major non-NATO ally, solidifying its position as one of the U.S. closest security partners in Africa. Ruto's trip was aimed at strengthening economic and security ties between the two nations, and the investment deals and security partnership are seen as major achievements for his administrations. Despite criticism over the cost of the trip, Ruto maintained that the benefits to Kenya outweighed the expenses. Zambia's former First Lady Esther Lungu and her daughter Shieso Katete have been arrested over possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. The arrest took place on Thursday in Lusaka alongside another relative, Charles Firi. Authorities stated that Ms. Lungu failed to provide a reasonable explanation for acquiring a $1.5 million estate in Lusaka, according to the state anti-drug agency. Former President Edgar Lungu, who has accused the government of victimizing him and his family to hinder his political comeback, vowed to challenge the charges in court. This incident follows Esther Lungu's arrest last September over corruption allegations related to theft of motor vehicles and title deeds. The Drug Enforcement Commission also revealed that Ms. Lungu owned 15 white double-story flats in Lusaka State Lodge area, suspected to be proceeds of crime. Her daughter faces additional charges for acquiring another 3 flats in Lusaka under fraudulent circumstances. It is still the African News on VOP TV. More stories on business and sports after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to African News on VOP TV. Moving on to business. There is exciting news for Nigeria's tech sector. The world's largest technology fair, GITEX, is coming to Lagos for the first time in 2025. This follows the successful launch of GITEX Africa in Morocco last year. The Nigerian government sees GITEX Nigeria as a platform to showcase local innovations on a global scale and boost productivity in healthcare, agriculture, and technology. Organizers are particularly enthusiastic about Nigeria's booming tech scene, and Nigerian teams have consistently impressed at GITEX pitch competitions, highlighting the country's vast potential in artificial intelligence, digital health, and fintech. This marquee event promises to energize Nigeria's tech ecosystem and connect it with international opportunities. This week's African business news is a mixed bag. While Kenya and Uganda prepares to release inflation data for May, potentially impacting their economies, other stories offers reasons for optimism. The World Bank recently approved a $1.2 billion budget support in the package for Kenya to address fiscal pressures and green initiatives. Additionally, Kenya's shilling strengthens due to dollar inflows from tea exports. However, economic uncertainty hangs over South Africa. The country's currency stocks and bonds tumbled after election projections shows that the ruling African National Congress ANC might lose its parliamentary majority for the first time in 3 decades. This political instability could have a ripple effect on the South African economy. Market analysts are predicting movement in several African currencies next week. The Kenyan shilling and Zambia's kwacha are expected to appreciate against the US dollar, while Ghana's cedi is anticipated to weaken. Nigeria's naira and Uganda's shilling are forecast to remain stable, and these fluctuations reflect the varying economic conditions and investors' confidence across the continent. And moving on to sports. Africa's new F1 fan are eager to see a race on the continent. The fan base is growing rapidly, with enthusiasts traveling to watch races in the Middle East and spending thousands of dollars to attend events. The Netflix series Drive to Survive has helped increase F1's popularity beyond its core European audience, and viewing parties have become popular in Africa, offering quizzes, free drinks, and prize giveaways to attract fans. Female fans are also on the rise, with some starting their own F1 podcast to share and share their passion for the sport and increase representation of African women in F1. Despite the growing popularity, Africa has not hosted an official F1 race in over 3 decades, with many fans and drivers, including Lewis Hamilton, calling for its return. And that's a wrap on the African news on VOP TV. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Voice of the People TV and all the social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Join our subsequent news bulletins at 4 and 9 p.m. respectively. I am Fina Okechukwu. Good afternoon.